And I think that brings me to kind of like my next topic. All right. And that is Kyle Shanahan. And I think he's kind of this guy that's been tagged as a genius offensively. And I think we could separate the two, right? Like Kyle Shanahan has kind of faced some scrutiny, I guess you could say, in the media or within the fan base or whatever, right? Like just with the way he handles kind of certain situations. And I think as a general manager, and that's why some coaches don't want to be GM, right? Like they might want to have a little bit of roster control, but I think it's very clear to a lot of us that a lot of things that go on with the 49ers go through Kyle Shanahan, like get his final approval. Okay. And because of that, like he's going to get the brunt of the, people being upset more than maybe a coach where it's just like, hey, I am not the GM. I'm just a coach here. All right. So if we just identify Kyle Shanahan as just a coach and we remove all the other aspects of what he does away, I think most people would say, man, maybe he is a little bit more on the genius side. And I'm watching the film, and one thing was very clear, and we'll get to Brock Purdy in a second, him being the top 15 quarterback, maybe top 10, I don't know. But we'll get to Brock Purdy in a second. But it was very clear that the passing windows are there. Are like there were these like huge gaping windows consistently in this game for Brock Purdy to throw into. And I think Kyle Shanahan, I remember listening to him some years back and some of the things that he does very well. He understands how to attack DB's rules or really just coverage guys' rules. It might not even be just cover guys. I think he does it in the run game as well. But he knows how to attack defenders' rules and use them against them. All right. So, for example, let's say we're in a cover 3, right? And you have 4 verts. All right. So cover 3, you got 4 verts. That means, the furthest outside guy, he's running a go route. Second guy, he's running a go route. All right. Now the corner, his rule is, well, I got my entire third. All right. I got my entire third. So damn near hash to the sideline, damn near. All right. So if you got 2 guys running vert at you, and maybe that underneath guy doesn't carry that 2 going vert because there's a back in the backfield or whatever it is, there's going to be a window there. And Kyle understands that. So it puts the corner in conflict. Do I squeeze 2 more because that's the easier throw up the seam? Or do I favor the outside guy more? Well, typically I would say, you need to favor the seam a little bit more because that's the nearest throw to the quarterback. All right, like that's the ball that travels the least amount of distance. Kyle understands that. So he'll use that rule against the cornerback. Now, Kyle's not the only guy that does that. I mean, I'm pretty sure all offense coordinators know how to do it, but there clearly is something that Kyle is doing that everybody else wants to utilize in their offenses and kind of steal some of his concepts. When you listen to Play Callers, the podcast, it was very clear that of all the smart guys, Kyle Shanahan was like the leader of it. And he has kind of like this relentless attitude towards learning it. I think the toughest thing for him is he is the smartest guy in the room, but then he like wants everybody to know he's the smartest guy in the room. And I don't think there's any indication of that more than when RG3 told the story about learning a play. And Kyle was like, hey, man, like run a play. I want you to like teach the team a play. Like you come up with the play, you teach them the play. And then based off of that, like, we'll see, right? So RG3 runs this play. It was terrible the first day. They came back the next day, and then boom, it worked. And then Kyle Shanahan told RG3, like, it felt good, huh? Like, did it feel good when that play worked? And you're going to do everything possible to make sure that play works. He's like, yeah. Kyle said, well, that's how I feel about all my plays. So basically, as much effort as you put into doing your own play, put that same effort into my plays because all my plays work, right? And I was just like, damn. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but when you compare that to like Andy Reid, right? And maybe we should stop saying Andy Reid. But I think we get insight. Like when they're good coaches, you get insight on what they do. And with Kyle, we are comparing him to like the upper echelon of coaches. We're not comparing him to guys that you don't expect to be, certain type of coaches or leaders, etc. All right. So like he's at the top in how we view him. But I was listening to Patrick Mahomes on the show Quarterbacks. And if you haven't watched Quarterbacks, I suggest you listen to it. Pretty good stuff. Patrick Mahomes talked about how every week Andy Reid lets them come up with a play. And it's like, all right, like you guys get that one play. You get to, run it. You get to practice it. You get to come up with it. And just incorporating like your players. You talk about buying in. Like you get the ultimate buy-in with that, right? And it just gives them this certain level of like freeness. And I think we see that with Patrick Mahomes, how he plays kind of has like this freeness to him. I think a part of that is with how his coach like coaches him to where, yeah, you might make a mistake. It's cool. Like, we'll live with it. We'll move on. And then you just go and continue to make plays. I think with Kyle, the way he's kind of handled his quarterbacks is like really tight and rigid. And it's like do it my way, right? Which essentially is what he told RG3 years ago. Like, do it my way. And I think it's a little tougher because it's like you're always trying to please them. And I think it was Jake Plummer who talked about how it was hard to play for Mike Shanahan because he just never felt like anything he did was good enough. So I'm not saying that's the case with Kyle and Brock, but I think, as it pertains to Kyle being kind of a genius, I think he does a lot of things very well. And when you watch his schemes, and again, I'm not this offensive guy or offensive guru, but it's clear when I'm watching what he's doing to manipulate coverage and get these big windows. I think he does a terrific job with that. And I remember years ago, and I need to find the soundbite so I could play that soundbite, but I remember years ago, Steve Young was talking about how he would love to play for Kyle Shanahan's offense. And he would ask Kyle, like, do you audible, right? Like, do you have the quarterbacks audible? And he's like, no. And Steve Young is like, why don't you audible into a different play? And he's like, well, my plays have all the answers. And I don't think anything was more evident than that, like evident with that, than when I just watched the film. And now we're going to kind of get into Brock Purdy, but I just saw in this group chat on Twitter where they're like, anybody can play in Kyle's offense. And I would say that you don't have to be the most special, purest passer to play in this offense. There are offenses where you probably do have to be a little bit more special. And maybe you don't with Kyle. But it's very clear. You just have to understand what it is he's trying to do. And understand that the answers are all there. All right. So, hey, when we go over it and there's going to be this huge window. I want you to hit this window, right? If you see the defense the way that I do, and he's probably talking to him, before the mic gets cut off, at 15 seconds. But when you watch it, it's like the answers are all there. All right. And one thing about Brock Purdy, and this is the part where I think it kind of, you would ideally like a guy that has all these special attributes to still be able to get to all the answers of the offense. That would be ideal. I think that's what would really take this offense over the top. But I think if you have what Brock Purdy has, which is his ability to really process quick. And I know people throw that out there, but when I saw how quick, again, now I'm comparing him to Trey Lance. But I remember in the preseason, there was Trey Lance looked right. Right, he looked to his right, and the DB jumped it. He jumped the hitch, so he comes off of that, comes back in the middle, and he has a guy right there. He doesn't get the ball out of his hands, right, and he gets sacked. And it's like, I understand it's supposed to be a quick throw. All right, got to outside. Dang, he jumped that. I can't throw that. Let me come back, and then dang, I get sacked. And we can say, oh man, the offensive line, like it's so bad. But I watched Brock, you know what I'm saying, where he was about to throw that out a quick throw outside the numbers or around the numbers to Brandon Ayuk, wherever it was, and they jumped it. So he quickly came off of that, knew where his guy was right here, boom, threw it to him. We talk about having the answers, all right? And that's the answer. I come here quick, they jumped that, let me snap right back here, get the ball out of my hands, and it almost looked like he did it blind down there, okay? But I don't know if everybody can do that. I think everybody can make that throw, but does everybody get to that throw as fast as he did when they took away one? And I'm talking about he did it fast. It was like, boom, oh, no, boom, ball's out. Completion, 5 yards, cool. Puts us in a better position. And as it pertains to Brock, I think he does that consistently, right? So when there are the gaping windows there, which they are on there, I mean, huge windows, and he throws the timing and rhythm, it looks really good, and he's hitting those guys, and that's awesome. When it's maybe not as gaping, he still does a good job of playing with timing and still can complete the pass. And then when they take those things away, he gets to the answer, which, again, that's what Steve Young said. The answers, they're there on every play. And when we look at how well Brock Purdy is playing, is because he understands where the answers are. So I don't think it takes a special physical freak to do that, but it definitely takes a special mind to do that, because if it were that simple, then everybody would do it. I don't think everybody can do it. So that's one thing that I've really grown to appreciate with Brock Purdy's game. I saw this special throw from Matthew Stafford yesterday. He made a couple just like special throws. That's not going to be Brock's game. All right, shoot. There's some special throws from Lance where he kind of, it looked like one was like a bender, like the ball bend around the guy and then went to like a that's not going to be Brock's game. But if you want somebody that's going to consistently just, the guy's open, I'm going to get him the ball. This guy, they took this away, I'm going to get to this next answer really quick. Brock does that consistently. And I really, truly think that that's all Kyle Shanahan needs.